Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the one and only Beth Traverso. How you doing, Beth?
Hey, Mike. Great to be back. Doing
Yes.
great today. Yeah.
Yeah, so we missed you. You were at the Bigger Pockets event, which we will absolutely talk about in
I
episode number
was.
3.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we have to catch up on the market. It's been 2 weeks. Again, tell us what market you're in,
Right.
and then what's been going on.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm in the Seattle market, and we've talked about how things change every week. We get shifts from week to week. It's like just slight variations where the breeze just coming from a different direction and different influences. A couple weeks ago was when rates started to bump up again. So I was waiting to see what happened with that. And it seemed like things started to slow down a little bit. So I'm talking about like after the September numbers came out. I'm talking about what's happening right now, and then we'll talk about September. But
Sure.
what I've seen is it's interesting. Everyone, when big changes happen in the market, everyone just needs to take a moment to pause and regroup, is what I've seen. We've seen the things happening faster this year than I've ever seen in all my years in real estate. So things are it seems like buyers and sellers are processing more quickly. I don't know if it's just the availability of information or just how people are processing, but they seem to be moving pretty quickly through it. So I saw about 1 week of things sort of at a standstill, meaning not a lot of activity, not a lot of new listings, not a lot of pendings, or the sales were already in the pipeline. And I haven't seen sale prices closer to list prices. I haven't been seeing the huge concessions that I was seeing earlier in the summer, which is interesting. And part of that's because that wish pricing went away months ago. That went away back in May, June, July at the latest. And now we're well past that. So the sales that are happening now are the sellers that woke up and got real, or if they didn't, maybe they canceled their listing and got out of the game and decided to wait. But right now it's interesting. I'm seeing things starting to tick back up as far as activity. I have several listings in different price points right now. And one of the most interesting things I think is that my highest price listing is the one that's getting the most activity.
Interesting.
Yeah. So who would have thought? Because I thought we'd all been hearing that the high end is dead. And maybe that is in some areas, but I can only speak to mine. But I'm seeing that these higher price listings, there's buyers out there that are looking at them and making moves, and everyone has their own personal reasons why. But it's interesting to see there's a lot of people out there that have the money to spend that are still going on with their lives. And again, these are the people people want to live their lives. They don't want to put their life on hold for interest rates that may never come back to where they were. They realize life goes on, and if they have the funds and the ability to do it, they still want to do it. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting because right before our conversation, which starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, I talked to Omar at 9 a.m. Omar, just so you know, just so the audience knows, he's a Southern California broker in the Inland Empire. His median home price is right around 400 grand. Where you are in Eastern Seattle is roughly 900, 950 ish.
Seattle's about 900. East Side where I am is about 113.
Wow, 1.3. So
Yeah.
when you say the high end, most of us would think 1.3 is a high end. So high end for you is
I
north of
know.
2?
It's the one I'm speaking about is 3.6.
No, so yes, north of 2 by a long shot.
Right. Yeah. But I'd say in general, when we talk
Yeah.
about higher end, it would be the north of 2. Depends on
Okay.
pockets and stuff. There's some areas that are really high price. But yeah, where I am about 1.2 gets you a decent, good move up house.
Okay.
And so this 3.6 is just an over the top estate.
Nice.
So, which is really
Very
cool and fun property. So,
Yeah. So the reason I was asking that is because at some point interest rates just don't matter, right? I can't speak for who the ultimate buyer is, but very likely they're not going to get a mortgage, right? They're going to stroke a check or wire some funds and just be done.
yeah.
And when you look at the National Association of Realtors, roughly speaking, a quarter of all transactions, it varies between 23 and 28% of the ranges I've seen are cash buyers. Now, there's always argument: are they truly cash buyers? Are they doing
Right.
this or doing
Yeah.
that? I can't do that mental
At the time of
gymnastics.
purchase, they paid cash. That's what
Somebody paid
yeah.
cash. Somebody cash came from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think one of the things we're going to see, right, if the market is 6 million and 1.5 of that is cash, and then we go to a market of 4 million, Do we go to a market of 1 million cash? I mean, it's still 25%. So some people just don't care
Right.
about rates.
And then there's others who don't like it, but they're doing what they need to do anyway. They're just
Yeah.
biting that bullet, and it's a kind of, or it's a bitter pill to swallow, but they're swallowing it. And that seems to be who's out there. People who life goes on, they got to do what they got to do. They need a house to live in. Inventory is very low. So going back to our September numbers. So we got our last week, we got our September numbers, and for the Seattle and King County area. And we do have less than 2 months of inventory. We've got about 1.9 months inventory. And that's really what's keeping this boat afloat, is this severe lack of inventory. And prices are up. The interesting thing, Mike, was that I have to check, because the September numbers are almost identical to the August numbers. It's almost like they didn't change at all. July was when we had our big drop. And then August and September have just been static.
Yeah.
So we're still up about year over year. In Seattle, it's about 5.9% up year over year. And East Side is 3.1. For some reason, the East Side just got hit harder. Maybe it's because we are the higher price, or I'm not sure. It's interesting how the two markets really are different. And so the inventory, the closed sales, we talked about transactions taking a dive, and then July was when they really took a hit, 50% down on the East Side, right? And now we're at about 30% down year over year. So, and does that mean transactions bumped back up again? But then I was also thinking about what was happening last year around that time. And we did have a little bit of a slow summer last year too. So maybe that's why it's not, you always have to look beyond the numbers too. Like, why are those numbers what they are? So are we rebounding in transactions, or is it just we were lower last year, so the comparison is different?
Better. Yeah. It's really interesting because Omar, the beauty here is you have your own playlist. It's called Beth, shockingly. Omar has his own playlist. Omar, like, I don't know, I guess it was kind of early August was he and I were talking about, oh my God, my inventory, right? I think he started this journey like at 600. It got to 1,700, which is almost 300%. And he's like, we're going to 2,000. And then about 3 weeks ago, it plateaued and now is going down. Right.
Yeah.
He was at 1,700. Now he's at 15. And oh, by the way, they were doing about 150 or so closed transactions a week. Now they're doing 42.
Wow.
So slow. So again, you're doing less closings and inventory is falling, which means less and less listings, more cancellations. At least in his market, he's like, dude, winter's going to be like frozen. So I don't know about your number.
And so for here, I was looking at that. So 2022, so King County, which is the whole entire area, is about 2.3 million people in King County. It's the whole Seattle area. And there's about just under 3,300 listings active in the whole entire area, which is really low for that many people. And then last year it was exactly the same. So it was 3,279 this year and 3,254 last year. So
inventory is clearly exploding higher. Clearly.
Yeah.
Like 14 higher, or whatever it is.
Right. What are 14 houses? I mean, who are those 14? Or anyway, so it's fascinating to watch this. And what I'm seeing as an agent who's there in the trenches is I'm getting a lot of, so one of my team members and I, we were just talking about this whole FOMO thing, the fear of missing out. And we're saying, it kind of feels almost like a ping pong ball where it gets like hit back. It's the buyers, and then it's the sellers, and now it's the buyers and sellers. And right now it almost feels like both of them are having a little bit of FOMO. The buyers are fearing that they're going to miss out with the rates continue. I think everyone accepts now that rates are going to be probably going higher. And sellers are feeling that too. And they're like, whoa, if we're going to move, maybe we should make some moves now. So we got both doing that. But then the overall picture still does not equate to an avalanche of inventory. I'm not seeing any sign of that. So
yeah, I think where we're at is your market might be different because your Januaries are different than most. But what I'm telling folks, or I'm thinking, is we have to wait till March 15th. Which generally speaking to the spring selling season. I have no idea where we're going to be at. I don't know where rates are going to be. I don't know where the economy is going to be. I don't know where unemployment's going to be. I don't know where the stock market's going to be. It's just, we've just got to get through this winter as best we can, which in real estate, it's just going to be slow. or very slow. And it's about getting to March at this point. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an interesting time because we really can't predict. But we do know that there are certain having the right guidance is going to really help people. So somebody, I think, if you can find an agent, a buyer's agent or a listing agent that really understands what's working and what's happening in this market and knows how to read the changes and the the little shifts in the market, so you can adjust and stay ahead of it. The people who are falling behind are the ones who are slow to react. So the sellers that are slow to react might be chasing a market down, or refusing to see where we are now and still looking at prices from 4 to 6 months ago. Thankfully, most are not doing that. Or I think a lot of the good agents aren't necessarily going to want to take those on anyway, because it's not helping anybody to do that. And for buyers, I think just realizing like, hey, this is our new reality. I don't personally believe that rates are going to be going back down to where they were. Maybe, I don't know if they ever will be sub 3, probably ever again who knows, but we can't rely on that. Like those days are gone. We're back to a more normal interest rate environment. It feels like a shock because it was how fast it happened. But, looking back on, we've all seen the charts and everything and the graphs going back over the decades. And, this is actually pretty, it's not unheard of to have a 6 or a 7% interest rate where you just have to adjust our budgets and
it's going to be, it's interesting. Yeah, the real key for someone is if you're shopping in King County, you need to be working with an agent like Beth and her team, because you are staying in front of it. You are watching it. Too many people in the real estate game wait for the headlines, and the headlines are at best case 60 days old. And if you're watching Case Shiller, it's 90 days old. So if you are in King County, you need to be following and reaching out to Beth, because she will help you buy and or sell. How should they do that, Beth?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, BethTraversogroup.com, or just Google Beth Traverso and you'll find me all over the place.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.